Hi everyone, it's Mandy Alexander from Emptiness Designs here with you again. And in today's video, I thought we would make a really nice floral card. So the products that we're going to be using today are the Circles and Diamonds stencil, Fantasy Flowers 1, Full Bloom, and Truly Happy. Along with those, we'll be using some white cardstock and some craft cardstock, along with an 8x8 card, some pens in shades of reds, oranges and yellow, scissors, distress inks, carved pumpkin, squeezed lemonade and gathered twigs, a Versamark clear ink pad, VersaFine black onyx. We will also need some embossing tools and a foam mat to work on with the tools. I'll be using an olive green, I don't know if you can see that clearly, an olive green embossing powder. Not sure you could see that clearly there. Hang on, let me try and get the camera to focus a little. No, it doesn't want to focus. Anyway, there's an olive green embossing powder, some red liner tape, and some twine. There'll probably be a few other bits and pieces that I need as I go along, but they're the main things that I have remembered to get started with. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get a piece of card and my stamping mat and the stamps that I have already got to one side ready to go. So these are the stamps that we're going to be using. Let me lay that on the white card so you can see that clearly. So we have these leaves come from the Truly Happy set. These flowers and these leaves come from the Full Bloom set. So these ones here come from the Full Bloom set. And I will show you the others and let you know where they've come from as I go along. So I'm going to take my VersaFine and I'm going to ink up my stamps. I'm going to make sure I get a really good coverage over everything. Don't want any bits to be left. You can of course stamp these one at a time if you're more comfortable doing that. I'm just gonna pop these straight on here and I'm going to give a nice push all the way around the acrylic block. Make sure that I catch all of the images. Hopefully that's enough. Oh, lovely. That's how those ones stamp out. Okay, so for now, I'm going to pop these just to one side so that these have got a chance to dry before I colour them, because I don't want to colour them straight away because obviously the ink is still slightly damp. So what I'm going to do next, I'm going to pop these over here. I'm going to bring in the stencil that I'm going to be using. This is, of course, the Circles and Diamonds. I think you can see why I called it that. It's made up of circles and diamonds. So the layer that I'm going to be using of white cardstock that's going to sit on the card blank, like so. It's going to sit on some craft card and then onto the card blank. I'm going to take this layer. Now I have already cut these down because I figured you didn't want to see me chopping cardstock down. And I'm going to place my stencil just off to one side because I only want a little bit of the ink on the cards. So let me just move my stamping mat out of the way for now so that I can work on my craft sheet. So this is going to be the carved pumpkin that I used first. So squidge a bit of that onto the table, on the craft sheet which is on the table. Don't put these directly onto your table. Not sure how that would look for you. Might be quite decorative, I guess. But if it's not the look you're going for, then I suggest you use a craft sheet. So I'm just going to lightly put some of the carved pumpkin down. And I'm going to leave the stencil where it is. I saw that it moved, so I will put it back properly before I go on with the next colour. But the next colour is the squeezed lemonade. So I'm going to pop that just underneath where the other one was so I don't contaminate the ink. Pick up some of the squeezed lemonade. Make sure that I have my stencil in the right place. And just kind of go around the edge of the carved pumpkin that I already put down. I don't want loads down because this is mostly going to be hidden underneath my foliage, but I just wanted a little bit of colour underneath to create some interest. And that's that. So I'm going to pop the stencil to one side, move my newly stenciled piece out of the way because again I want this to dry. So what we're going to do is quickly tidy up so I don't get ink everywhere. And bring back in the images that I just stamped at the beginning of the video. So my next step is to colour them in. So I'm going to start with my lighter of the two reds because the darker one is going to be for the centre of the flower. So I'm going to use my Crimson 11. These are Spectrum Noirs if you wanted to know what pens these were. I'm just going to put a little bit of paper underneath so that the ink has somewhere to blend through to, because these are alcohol marker pens and they will bleed through your cardstock. So if you have something that can absorb the ink underneath what you're working on, it won't come back up into the cardstock that you're working on and won't ruin the work you've already done. So excuse me. So I'm just going to put some colour down. I tend to do sort of 3 at a time with the petals so that the ink doesn't dry out too much. Then I'm going to use an orange. I'm going to go over the red and bring the orange up slightly higher. I'm going to do the same on all of this. And then I'm going to go back over it with the yellow, and the yellow is going to go all the way down to the bottom and all the way to the top, blending the other colours as we go. Okay, so as you can see where the other colours are, I'm just going to go over them a little more so that they blend, that you don't get so much of a harsh line. I'm going to turn my work and do the same on the other side of this flower. So starting with the red, going on to the orange, working quite quickly so that the inks don't dry too much, and then over all of it with the yellow. They work up quite quickly, and if you enjoy colouring in, then this is a lovely project for you to recreate. I'm just going to go over the orange a bit more because I've got quite a harsh line on these. So I'm just going to blend that out a little bit more. Okay, and then I'm going to take the darkest red and I'm just going to colour in the middle of the flower. And I'm just going to flick up a couple of times just to give the overall effect of it all blending together. Colour those bits that I missed, and that is that. That's that flower coloured in, ready to go. Now, you can take your coloured in images into your scan and cut. I'm not going to do that because I haven't got space to use my scan and cut in my little crafting area to show you how to do it. So all I'm going to do is cut these out quickly by hand. I won't be doing all of them because I have done these already ahead of time so that you don't have to watch me cut them all out. But I thought it might be nice for you to see me at least colour in one of the elements. So let me just show you how really quickly you can cut them out. Now, you can cut them out by going right up to the flower itself and following along the black line or whatever colour ink you've used. I like to leave a little border around the outside so that I find if I leave a border I can cut it out quite fast. So I'm going to go into the petals, again just leaving a little border all around the outside, because then if you've cut them out you've got the opportunity to layer them, because if you want to you can just stamp them direct onto the cardstock you want to work with, but then there'll obviously be there won't be any dimension to them, and if you want to build the flowers up you're going to want a bit of dimension. While I think about that, I think I'm just going to lean over to the side of me and turn my glue gun on, ready so that when we come to stick later it's already hot. So getting there. I know not everybody likes cutting out, but oh excuse me, I've got a horrible frog in my throat today. But I really enjoy the whole cutting out process. I mean, I'm rushing this right now because obviously you don't want to sit and watch me colouring in and then cutting out for ages. So I'm just trying to get through this quite quickly. I'm going to show you how to shape the flowers as well once you have cut them out, because it just really gives dimension to your cards. Obviously if you're posting then the dimension isn't great because it will add on to the cost of your postage, but that is cut out. Let me just move my rubbish into my bin, which is under my desk, and move my papers to the side. So yeah, so that is the flower cut out. So I mentioned before that we'd need an embossing foam and some tools. So I'm going to bring these in now because I'm going to show you real quickly how to emboss a couple of elements. So as you can see, I sort of got ahead of myself and I've stamped and coloured and cut out. That one is that one. So I stamped, coloured that, and I've cut that one out already. But while I've got that here, I just want to show you that these stamps, they are opposites, because I know if you want to do a mirror image and you have your stamp and it goes in the same direction, it kind of throws it off balance. So I just wanted to show you that these two, although they are the same image, they have been flipped. They are opposites, so that you can have the curve to the right and the curve to the left. Okay, so I'm going to move this out the way, turn these over, and get my trusty spritz tool and just spray the back of the leaf and the flower, because you want the cardstock to be slightly wet so it molds easier. So I'm going to bring them up onto the foam pad, just dry that and pull that into shot more clearly for you. And using the embossing tools, all I'm going to do, use this one, is curl the leaves from behind on the foliage here. Oh, sorry if you heard that. Someone's messaging me. That's not great timing there. And then just push the stalk down at the front so that that's flat, but you've still got the dimension on the leaves. Hopefully that's coming across. Let me show you a bit more clear on there. So from the top, it just still looks flat, but if I turn it to the side, you can see that it's curled and it's domed, so that when you put it on the card, it doesn't sit flat. And then with the flower, essentially it's the same thing. I'm going to use the bigger end, and I'm just going to kind of small circles and push at the same time so that it all rotates. Now I'm going to flip it over and use the slightly smaller end. I'm just going to kind of draw them into the middle so they're shaped, and now they're curling into the middle. And then I'm going to turn the whole flower over, and I'm going to take the smaller end again, and I'm just going to squish it down. So you can see how that's all shaped and domed and all really nicely curled up. So let me do that for you one more time, just so you can see. So take the flower, give it a spritz with some water, give it just a moment. Let me move these out of the way. Give it just a moment to start soaking up some of the water. Pop it onto your mat. This side, this time, because this flower is slightly smaller, I'm going to use the smaller side to start with and then go down a size. So I'm just going to push, try and do it so you can see a bit better. I'm just going to push in the petals from behind. And then I'm going to take my smaller tool, so this one's really quite small, and I'm going to draw them in to the middle so that they curl. And then I'm going to turn the flower over again and take my tool and just pop it in the middle. Let me move my hand a bit out of the way so you can see that they really do stand up and have lots of dimension. And that is how you give the petals and the leaves and everything a bit of shape. Then all you do is you start putting it all together. So where I have already got ahead of myself, let me pull some of these pieces in so that you can see what I've already done. Everything that I stamped, I kind of got ahead of myself and I'd stamped. So there's that one, and you've already seen the green leaves and the small flowers. And so that is already stuck together. So this is 2 of this size of flower, which is the smallest one on the full bloom set. And you can just see how much dimension that's got. Let me clear the background so it's not obscured by anything. So you can see how much dimension there is to this flower. So all I'm going to do is make sure that the bits I need are there, just to one side, and then I'm going to show you how to pop together the flower. So this is where the glue gun comes into play. Hopefully it is warmed. Let me just give that a bit of a squirt off to the side so I can see. Yes, it is nice and warmed. I'm going to need my small end of my ball tool again. I'm going to pop some of the glue just in the center of the bigger flower. I'm going to take the smaller flower and offset it so that the petals don't line up, and just hold that till it grabs. So it doesn't take too long, just a few seconds. Yep, that's that one done. Oh, I've got a string there. That's the only downside to the hot glue gun, is that it does give you stringy bits. Now, I can leave that there, but I'm quite tempted to pop the third layer on underneath, just so it's got some real height to it. I think I will. Seems a shame to waste it, so I'll pop this, some glue in the middle of this one. Again, setting it so that the petals are not lined up, and just push this one in. So this is going to be a really full flower. Let me tilt my hand a bit so you can see. This is going to be a really full flower, but this is going to be the focal flower, and the other 2 smaller ones will be decorative at the side. So that should probably be good. Yep. Oh, sticking a bit to the foam mat. Okay, so move those all to the side. Alright, so the elements that we need are created already. As I said, I just wanted to show you a quick make today. Obviously the cutting out can take some time, so I've got ahead of myself there, but you can do that of an evening where you would, if you just want to sit down and do some stamping and colouring in ahead of time, then that's an ideal project. I like to do embossing and stamping all ahead of time, so that if I want to make something really quickly, I can. So yeah, just 1 second, I dropped one of my leaves down the back out and I had to find it, but I've got it. So let me show you my little container. This is what I mean. Let me move these to the side. So this is running empty now, but at one point this was full of just flowers and leaves and some clear acetate heat embossed bits there. So if I tilt you, you can see the shine on that, but if I show you like that, you can see that it's still see-through. It's ideal for popping onto cards when you don't want to stamp directly onto the cards. But yeah, so this tub was full at one point, so it needs replenishing. Just put all these back in here. Yeah, that's just something that I like to do. I like to sit and colour in and cut out. Okay, so what we're going to do now is I'm going to just move these little bits to the side, and we're going to bring back in the stenciling that we did already. So hopefully this will be dry, because I am going to heat emboss one of the other stamps onto here, and I don't want the oxide to pick up any of the embossing powder. So it may well do that. I think I might just give this a slight blast with my heat gun. So let me just get that hot to one side, and hopefully that will dry any of the oxide that hasn't dried yet. Just a quick once over, and hopefully that will be dry enough that it doesn't then pick up any of the embossing powder that I'm going to be adding on. So because I'm going to be using embossing powder, I want to bring back some of my sheets of paper. You can tell these are well used and well loved. I'm going to want my Versamark, my watermark stamp pad. So this is a clear embossing ink, so you may not see the impression, although you might, because I'm using a stamp that isn't being used for the first time. As you can see, this has been used with black ink before, so you may see the impression. You may see the impression because of it having been used already. This particular stamp, let me show it up the right way for you, is from the Fantasy Flowers 1. Now when I drew this, I kind of had like a peacock design in mind, and I was so pleased with the way it turned out. It's a really useful, versatile stamp. You can use it as I said, peacock feathers it works for foliage, so there's a few different uses that you can have with this one. But this is going directly onto the cardstock that I will be building the rest of the card onto. So this will be the top and final layer of the mats and layers onto the card itself. So I'm just going to pop this here. So I'm trying to put it in the sort of in the center of where all the all the stenciling is. I'm just going to lay that down, give that a really good push. Lift that off and do the same again on the other side. So we're top and tailing. So kind of just line it up so you've got a similar distance from the top to the bottom, and just pop that on. It doesn't matter that they're going to overlap slightly in the middle, because you won't see that because the flowers and the foliage are going to be on there. Okay, so this is where the olive green embossing powder comes into play. So just pour some of this off. Fingers crossed the stencil is dry, which it is. Oh, thank goodness. I was really worried that it wasn't dry enough and it would have picked up all of the ink. So let me just tap this to get all the loose bits off. And use the heat gun again. So I'm going to let that get really hot. I'm quite pleased with how well I lined that up. You can't tell there's actually a join there. Okay, I like to heat from underneath because I find it gives you a smoother finish. Okay, we'll bring that in now. Oh, do that so you can see. There we go. You can see the powder turning. As soon as the powder starts to turn, you want to move your heat gun. Hopefully you can see that okay. I think I got all of that. Oh, no, I have just missed a little bit. Let me just do that off camera. Done. Okay. So let me turn that for you. It won't be sat this way, it will be sat the other way, but just so you can get a nice clear look at what's happened so far. So this is the stencil and some heat embossing. So let me just tidy up really quickly. This olive green is such a lovely shade. Okay. So I'm just going to try and straighten this out a bit because obviously the paper has warped slightly where it's been heat embossed. But that is essentially that. So before I stick this layer onto the layer of craft card, I want to actually wrap some twine around it because I just think it looks really pretty when you do that. So I'm going to pop this off to the side while I grab my red liner tape. This tape, oh, it's brand new. I haven't used this one yet. This tape is super sticky. It's probably the stickiest tape I've ever used. The red colour is just the top layer that you remove because the tape itself is clear. But you'll see that in just a second. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this over, and I know that I'm probably about 3 centimeters in. So what I'm going to do is turn this over. The reason that's important is because you want to kind of put your tape where your twine is going to be. So I'm just going to snip a bit here and pop a line of the tape here. And do the same at the other end so that when I'm wrapping it, it's got something to hold on to, and then I will put more glue over it when I'm sticking the cards onto the mat. So I'm going to take the backing off. See what I mean? How it's the carrier part of the tape that is red. The tape itself is quite clear. So let me grab the twine. I'm going to pop the first bit down and push it onto the tape so that it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'm going to wrap it around. Not pulling too hard because you don't want to bend the cards. Oh, my fingers keep sticking to the back where the tape is. And let's go kind of in the middle and then off to the side again. Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so I've wrapped that round, so I'm just going to turn it over again and snip off the bit that I don't need. Really give that a push into the tape so that that doesn't go anywhere. I'm even going to put a little bit more of the tape over the twine, that will also then help hold the card in place when I stick it down. Because there's only so flat I'm going to get it now on the mats and layers, because there's twine around the back creating dimension. So I really want to push that in to make sure that the twine is firmly stuck down. Okay, take these carrier bits off and grab my glue, go around the edge, all in the middle with the glue. And this is where I'm going to pull the mats and layers back in. So just because the red liner tape is on the side underneath the stencil work there, I'm going to start the other side so that I can give myself a good chance to get the card lined up properly, because the red liner tape, once it's stuck, it's stuck. It is really strong tape. So I'm just going to push this down. Give that a bit of a curl again, because obviously the cardstock has bent ever so slightly, but once the glue grabs, that will help straighten that out. And I'm actually going to stick this part down now as well. So just go all around the edge. Now I could stick the flowers and foliage down with this wet glue that I'm using here, but it's kind of faster and easier to use a hot glue gun, because it's virtually an instant grab and they kind of don't go anywhere then. If you use a wet glue, sometimes the flowers can fall off. So I'm just going to turn this over and give a good press from behind so that all the adhesive is picked up. Okay. It's coming along really nicely. Not much more to go now. Okay, so all I'm going to do is build up my image now. So bringing in all my flowers. So it's going to sit kind of like so, with some of the foliage around it. So it's quite a simple card, but it's really pretty, and it's one that you can send for kind of any occasion. Because the sentiment I'm going to use, you know, you could put any sentiment you want on here. It works for birthdays. It could even be, you know, one of the harder to send sympathy cards. I've even done this design with Christmas cards, just swapped out the flowers for poinsettias. I do apologise, somebody's trying to message me, so if you can hear my phone buzzing, that's what it is. They are going to have to wait until I have finished this. Okay, and then I like to do it that way around, and then I like to tuck my foliage in. So all I'm going to do on this one is a little thin line of glue just down the stalk. And pop that just at the back here. Oh, get in there. Oh, there we go. And off to one side ever so slightly. And it doesn't matter, you can see the bottom, because we're going to cover that bit up as well with the other leaves that we're going to use. So again, the same on the other side. Just a little line of glue down the stalk. Turn it over. Oh, I thought I was dropping my glue gun on me then. And tuck that in here. Do be careful if you're using the hot glue gun to, you know, take your time so you don't burn yourself. And then just going to tuck my other feathers, sorry, I've used these as feathers before as well, and my other leaves in at the bottom. I'm just going to pull that round a little bit and sit that in there, let that grab, and take the smaller one and pop it just over the top but underneath that petal so that it's all together but opened, so they're not just directly on top of one another. I'm going to quickly do the same at the other end. So that you have like a mirror finish. Just get that to grab. Take away some of the stringy bits. And then the final leaf. Oh, fingers and thumbs today. Just pop that in there. Okay, so that's that bit done. So I'm just going to turn my glue gun off and move that to one side so I don't burn myself on it. So the next step that we're going to do is just put a little sentiment on, and then that's basically the card finished. I might pop some adhesive gems on there, but all I want to do right now is just put a small sentiment off to the side. So let me move this out of the way, bring my mat back in, and this one, it says live your life in full bloom, and this is from the full bloom set. Not going to heat emboss this. I am just going to ink it up in the Onyx Black VersaFine. Sorry, the Onyx Black VersaFine. I'm going to tuck this to one side towards the top. Lovely. I'm going to bring in my guillotine. Just chop that bit off there. See, I did already have one of these prepared earlier on, and I've put a little snips either side. I can't think what that's called, almost to make it like either side like a pennant. But I think what I'm going to do is just do that on one side, because it's going to get tucked into, I'll show you on this one, it's going to get tucked into here, so it doesn't really matter that there's one on that side. So all I'm going to do is move that out of the way again so you can see what I'm doing, and just by eye, just snip into the center, either side. Try and get it as even as you can. Like so. And to finish it, I'm just going to stick, butterfingers today. I'm just going to stick this on here, which is some of the craft card that has been used to create the matte and layer on the card itself. And then I'm going to quickly cut round it so that this has a bit of a frame, because otherwise it would be a white embellishment sitting on a white card, and so you wouldn't see the actual detail of the embellishment. So I'm going to want my big scissors for this, just to cut along the edge. So let me take a bit of that, and I'll use the smaller scissors to cut in the V, but just to get up here. And then again, just by eye, trying to make sure that you give a nice similar size. A bit difficult when you come to the other side because obviously your scissors are covering and obscuring the view. I'm a lefty and a righty. I'm a bit ambidextrous, so, but not always in the way I want to be, because I can only cut things out comfortably with my right hand, but then other stuff I have to do with my left hand. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to shape this by literally holding it in my right hand, taking my finger underneath on my left hand and just running my finger along and curling the paper, so that we get some height. If I tilt that, you'll see that that's going to sit raised off of the card, and it will just tuck in just down here like so, pointing upwards, because that's the way I like it. You could put it pointing downwards, you could have it sitting straight across. I'm going to have it set slightly down and pointing upwards. Now, one of the easiest ways to keep your arch is to use 3D foam pads, because that way it can't be pushed in. And I'm just trying to find mine. That will do. So what I'm going to do is turn this over, and in the middle just start stacking up some 3D foam pads. I find 4 usually works, but if that's too many, just keep checking as you go. If it's not enough, just add more. So I won't take that off because I'm just going to check to see if that is enough. Yep, 4 is going to be fine for me. So all I'm going to do is take the last bit of adhesive off, bring back my glue, glue on the tips of the V's that we cut out and along the back straight edge. Put it where I want it and let the glue grab. So just hold it in place for a few seconds. And that, apart from a couple of self-adhesive gemstones, is pretty much the card finished. So all I'm going to do is grab a couple of the little green gems from my sheet that I've got here, just these ones up here. Hopefully I don't lose too many pinging them across, and I'm just going to put some in the flowers that I heat embossed directly onto the matte layer of the card blank. Just to pop a couple on, so that there's something sparkly, a little bit of interest. This is all optional, of course. You don't have to put any bits that you don't want on. And I think I'm going to dot a couple just around as well, just to finish it off. One there. Where's my other sheet gone? One here. I try to work with, the I've forgotten the word, the uneven numbers, because it's more aesthetically pleasing. So we'll just pop one here, and that's 5 little gems dotted round. And that is the finished card. So hopefully you like that, and hopefully you've been inspired again to create something similar. As I said, I've used this particular style of card for a few different occasions, including Christmas, where I've just used poinsettias instead of my flowers from Full Bloom. Everything that has been used, apart from the inks, are available from my website. So the flowers, the stencils, the stamps, all have been made using the products from the website. Well, hopefully you've liked that video. You've liked this video. If you have, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.